After several days on the Moonstone Trek, winding through high Andean passes and valleys carved by wind and water, I finally arrived at my destination, Machu Picchu. The night before, I stayed in a small hotel along the Urubamba River, in the town of Aguas Calientes. It was from this same valley that explorer Hiram Bingham set out in 1911, following local accounts of ancient ruins hidden in the jungle above. Since his time, Aguas Calientes has transformed into a busy gateway, welcoming more than 1 million travelers each year who come to see what was once forgotten. I woke early that morning, before dawn, to catch the first bus climbing the steep road to the top. The air was cool and heavy with mist. As we ascended, the green walls of the valley closed around us, the river vanishing far below. When the bus finally stopped, I stepped out, had my passport stamped, and walked through the gate into one of the most extraordinary landscapes on Earth. I had spent months studying Machu Picchu before coming here, reading about its history, its architecture, its mysteries. Yet standing there, it felt strangely familiar, as if I had already seen it in another life. As I hiked up toward the terraces and looked down at the ruins below, I thought about Bingham's journey more than a century earlier. When he reached this ridge in 1911, the site was covered in dense vegetation, the work of centuries of silence. He believed he had found the lost city of the Incas, the final refuge of an empire escaping the Spanish conquest. Later study proved him wrong, but his discovery brought Machu Picchu to the world's attention, a city that had survived hidden for nearly 400 years. Even now, with a century of excavation and research behind us, many questions remain. We don't know exactly why the Incas built it here, or what final purpose it served. Some say royal estate, others temple or observatory. Many wonder if the site predates the Incas entirely, that it was originally part of some lost civilization. Standing before its walls, I realized that not knowing is part of what makes this place so compelling. I hadn't come seeking definite answers, but to see it for myself, to walk where others once walked, and to ask my own questions. Okay, we are overlooking Machu Picchu. To the north is Huayna Picchu, which means young mountain, and to the south, which we can't quite see from here, is Machu Picchu, which means old mountain. Now originally, it seems like based on the architecture and many of the alignments in that architecture, that Huayna Picchu, or young mountain, was actually the most important peak of the two. There's a lot of features that frame Huayna Picchu, such as the sun gate that we'll enter through, and as well as several other alignments down below. So it seems like this played a really important role in the various ceremonies and spiritual beliefs that were recognized here. Interestingly, Machu Picchu is a name, it means old mountain. It was a name that was given to this site by the locals, but there's no way for us to know what the original name was. Old mountain, perhaps it was given because the locals knew that the architecture here dated back to the Incas, or perhaps even before. As far back as anyone could recall, there may have been, structures up here that were not maybe even built by the Incas, but by a previous civilization. Dating places like this is a tricky process. And a lot of it's been dated by the oral histories of the Incas that were recorded by the Spaniards and then were perpetuated over the years and have been taken up by historians and sort of retold as fact. But those initial accounts, there's no way for us to know how accurate those are. The other means of dating are, carbon dating, and there's some other ones as well, but even carbon dating has its flaws. While we generally, accept or are told that this was built by Pachacutec in the 15th century, so the mid-1400s, as a royal estate, we'll think about that with a grain of salt. We don't really know. There's still a lot of mystery surrounding this site. Okay, we're headed down to the Sun Gate, which is, I've been dreaming of this moment. Walking through the Sun Gate, we'll be looking north. It frames Huayna Picchu, Machu Picchu seems to have been a place for worshiping the Apus and the cosmos. This is the sun gate leading into Machu Picchu. You can see a trapezoidal door. Huayna Picchu is framed directly to the north. And you'll notice that this architecture and the layout of Machu Picchu intentionally guides us along a very intentional route. So you see your vision is controlled so that you're only able to focus on the center point of worship here. This is one of the first complexes that you enter at Machu Picchu. You can see the characteristic trapezoidal openings, some of which are niches, others are windows. These could be used to frame a mountain in the background. They may also, at times are designed to allow light to pass through. Sometimes that light would shine on an object. Maybe someone would be sitting here and view the rise of the sun or certain astronomical events, more important astronomical events like the June or December solstices. See the terraces.
They weren't perfect. They weren't perfect, yeah.
Machu Picchu Mountain to the south.
They weren't perfection, but they were not perfect.
Mount Veronica to the east. So this was likely a very special route and played a symbolic role in not only the end of the pilgrimage, but in some of the ceremonies that were performed here. We're coming down some more steps. And again, why so many steps? Well, because there's a lot of change in elevation, but again, steps they're very symbolic in Inca and Andean spiritual beliefs. They represent moving up and down in physical to spiritual form, as well as levels of consciousness. So there were probably a lot of ceremonies that involved, descending, or even more importantly, starting in a cave and ascending along steps or certain paths, through gates as a representation of transcending, a certain physical form or a certain level of consciousness and journeying upwards. What's really interesting too, and we see this throughout this architecture, is the way that the natural and the man-made are woven together. So one of the primary themes of Inca spiritual beliefs and architecture was the ability to both respect and capture the natural landscape, but also to modify it. So it's sort of the expression of order over chaos and the dominance over one's surroundings, but also with a respect for the natural beauty and the natural power here. So it's really a merging of sort of the natural and the man-made. Again, see, here's one of these cave areas right here. So next to a lot of caves, you'll find these steps. So it represents this emergence from a cave, or from a nascent state of being, or from maybe a physical form, or maybe from Pachamama, Mother Earth, and moving up in energy, or vibration, or spirituality, or consciousness, perhaps, towards the sky. Perhaps super consciousness. Many of these niches. Okay, down below us we have the Torian, which is often called the Sun Temple, but in fact it may not have been a temple for sun worship. In this book, Machu Picchu's Sacred Sisters, Gary Ziegler and Jay Malville make the argument that even on the June solstice, there is not a perfect alignment with that carved stone. And then in fact, the stone itself, you can see there's a cut that looks vertical, but it's not. So they question whether perhaps this was not for sun worship, but instead was a place for studying Pleiades, or the constellation that was important for agricultural purposes and for planting and harvest. So while it's called the Sun Temple, it may not have been, this one may not have been for sun worship. But you can see the shape The silhouette is built probably to echo that of the Coricancha. It's the same sort of design as the Coricancha in Cusco, which is the Sun Temple. Okay, we're headed down more steps. Okay, here we're at the famous cave underneath the Torian. Combines many of the spiritual themes of Andean culture. You've got a cave, you have running water, you have steps, so you're sort of rising up out of this cave. What's really fascinating about this is the way that it blends the natural contours of the bedrock with man-made construction. Okay, here we are at the Intihuatana up on the Usnu, highest point of Machu Picchu. The Intihuatana has been found throughout the Incan Empire. Intihuatana has been interpreted as hitching post of the sun. It was a symbolic way to tie the sun to the earth so that during wintertime it didn't go too far north and disappear forever. It's been theorized that this was to mark the zenith, the solar zenith, when the sun was directly overhead. But it may also be possible that this was a replication of Machu Picchu, which is to the north, because it slants at the same angle. You can see several people placing their hands on it. There is a legend that if you put your hand on the Intihuatana, it opens up your eyes or your mind to the future or different dimensions. This guy is sitting here telling everyone not to touch it, and I think most people are pretending like they didn't understand Spanish. The Intihuatana is right up there. It's the Usnu, or the highest sacred platform of Machu Picchu. Let's see the main plaza down below. This is looking east. Okay, down more steps. And here are steps that descend down this way. They have a lot of the site roped off, trying to preserve it. At the Machu Picchu gets like 1 million visitors a year. So you can imagine all that foot traffic will take its toll. So they've really controlled the route that you take through the site, which, it's understandable. It's interesting, these steps have a water channel. Managing precipitation would have been an issue that the engineers of Machu Picchu would have addressed through much of the terracing that they do through many of these canals. And then I have read that what we see above ground here is matched, at least, in the complexity of the underground engineering. There again is another cave, right? Symbolic of the beginning or nascent state of belief or life. And then right next door to stairs for transcendence upwards. Okay, behind me we have the Temple of the Three Windows, which does line up with the June equinox or the June solstice. Again, what purpose did this serve? This is considered Inca imperial. However, again, what are all these you know, you've got these slots up top, various protrusions. On the far side, you have another slot, as if something was supposed to go in there. Now, perhaps there was a beam across here, and then a roof, and this was all covered. You can see how a beam might have been laid right across there. Okay, we're making our way along the eastern side of Machu Picchu, moving south. See again where natural stone formations and gaps have been filled with stonework. Again, reflecting that fusion of natural and man-made. And here we are again at what was obviously a ceremonial plaza. Again, we're on the eastern side of Machu Picchu. This overlooks the vast chasm between this ridge line, this saddle, and the mountains beyond. And the Urubamba is way down below, I think 1,600 feet. 4 windows. Seems the numbers 2, 3, and 4 come up time and time again in Inca architecture. What's neat also, and I pointed this out before, is this stone, which almost looks like a replication stone, but it may, you know, some sort of liquid may have been poured down it during ceremonies. You have, for channeling rain, you have this drainage canal that extends the length of the floor and drains down below. You know, the builders here were able to manipulate large stones, obviously. So when they left protrusions like that, little outcrops, you know, it makes you think there had to have been some sort of a purpose. Okay, we're headed down to Temple the Condor here at Machu Picchu. Now, there's some interesting it's a staircase, but there may have been liquids poured down those little sort of ripples to affect Kamei. And of course here is Temple of the Sun, and unfortunately you're going to be looking right into the sun, or Temple of the Condor. You're going to be looking right into the sun. But you can see these are the two outstretched wings. 1, 2. So that's the temple. There's a cave. So emergence from this cave through flight might have been like an after death sort of symbolism. Right here you have the head of the condor. There's its white sort of frill, and there's the beak. Very cool. Walking through Machu Picchu, one of the first things that stands out isn't just the view, it's the stonework. The site is a mosaic of different masonry styles. Some walls are made of massive granite boulders or carved directly into the bedrock, fitted so tightly that no mortar was ever needed. Others show the refined precision of imperial Andean ashlar masonry, where carefully cut blocks form smooth, elegant surfaces. And scattered among them are rougher walls of cobblestone and fieldstone, what archaeologists call rustic or pirca work. Why this range of craftsmanship? It may reflect purpose: finer masonry for temples and elite buildings, rougher work for terraces and common structures. Or it might reveal stages of construction, where different labor groups or time periods left their mark. Some researchers even wonder whether the oldest megalithic sections could predate the Incas themselves, inherited and expanded by them centuries later. Like many Andean sites, Machu Picchu's age is estimated mainly through relative dating and radiocarbon samples from organic remains such as wood, ash, or bone. But the stones themselves have never been directly dated. Methods like OSL, fission track, or archaeomagnetic analysis haven't been yet applied here. Without them, we can't know for certain when these rocks were quarried or shaped. What we see today may be the layered legacy of generations, Inca, pre-Inca, and the mountain itself. Throughout the site, several carved stones appear to replicate the shapes of the surrounding mountains, mirroring their outlines with remarkable accuracy. These replication stones reflect the Andean belief in harmony between human construction and the natural world, suggesting that the builders sought not to dominate the landscape, but to echo it, transforming stone into a symbolic extension of the sacred peaks around them. So some stones I've noticed, you look at it, the stone from one angle, and there's a mountain in the background, and it replicates that silhouette or that contour. And then you move around to the other side of the stone and look at it a different direction, and there's a different mountain, and it seems to replicate that silhouette. So, as you look around and you see this seemingly random assortment of stones, it makes me wonder, are they random? Machu Picchu's builders carved directly into the living bedrock, shaping steps, thrones, channels, and the famous Intihuatana stone. These features reveal a deep reverence for the natural earth, and may have served both symbolic and practical roles, connecting rituals to the landscape while perhaps channeling water, or aligning with celestial events that help the Andeans measure time and the cosmos. After several hours wandering this amazing place, it was time to leave. Machu Picchu is massive, and someone could easily spend days or weeks exploring its mysteries. Maybe I'll return someday to investigate further. Making this video almost 8 years after my visit brought back so many memories. Since then, I've learned so much more about Machu Picchu and Andean history, so that some of my original observations seem almost naive. I hope you'll forgive me for any errors or oversights. And clearly, I'm not a professional videographer or documentary maker either. I'm just a guy on a journey, someone who likes to learn and explore. Hopefully you've enjoyed this series, maybe learned a little, and felt your own pull to visit Peru. I'll follow up with more videos about this site and its many intricacies and mysteries. Until then, adios y buen camino. Goodbye and happy trails.